So it's time to start another build. This is going to be guitar number 17, and it's going to be an X16 type guitar with a Steinberger trem instead of the tail tuner type design back here. And at the moment, the X16 is disassembled in the paint shop, so I can't really show it to you. But I'll leave a link in the description to that build so you can check it out. So this is like the closest thing I have in the shop to what the guitar is going to look like. It's a Steinberger trem and a faux headstock, but guitar 17 is going to have two detachable bars, one for the strap and one for the leg bar, the way the X16 does, instead of the single bar that flips back and forth that you can take off and flip over to do whichever. And for the pickup configuration, it's going to get the X16 style pickup setup or system with the bridge pickup and then a second like bass pickup, or the neck pickup mounted underneath the two bass strings, and then wired in parallel to create one voicing for the guitar. And but yeah, other than that, it's going to be the only other change is that on the X16, the thumb screws for the bars were just outboard of the bridge, and on 17, I'm going to use the full width of the body blank, a 1x6 piece of mahogany, in order to try to move those screws away from the bridge a little bit. And so make the body as wide as you can, and then just have more body and less extension bar, basically. And the only other difference from an X16 or the X16 build, other than the bridge and such, is this pickup. I'll show it to you in a minute. This pickup is going to be an Alnico 5 or pure humbucker with slugs and high output. I think it's about 16K, and I'll be showing you all the parts for the build. And it's going to get the trapezoid neck and the triangle heel and the profile that comes all the way up to the top edge of the fingerboard. This one doesn't have that. And the neck is mahogany, the body and the leg bars will be, the neck is maple, sorry, and the body and leg bars will be mahogany. For controls, this was just an early sketch. It's just going to have a jack and an on-off switch and a kill button. Yeah, I didn't even put the kill button on this, but I've already got the part. And I think that covers the basic design. And now I'll do a little show and tell on parts. So here's the mahogany for the build. This came from Barrington Hardwoods off of Amazon, and it was a little under $50 for the two pieces. It's 3/4 of an inch thick, 6 inches wide, 2 feet long. One entire piece will be used for the body blank because I want the full width, and the two bars, the leg and strap bar, will be cut from the second piece. And this is the neck for the build. Another one of these orange dots. It's a 24 fret and 12-inch radius, and maple double action truss rod, plastic nut. About $47 on Amazon. This particular one's an Alkanov brand. Beautiful as always. It's got nice graining in the wood and stuff. Of course, all that'll go away when I recarve it. And yeah, nice finish on the paint job. Nice looking fingerboard. Yeah, I'm never disappointed with these necks. The frets are in nice shape. They don't even really need to be rounded. They're that smooth. So, yeah, that's pretty impressive. So, yeah, that's the neck. And then, let me see what else there is to show you. I've ordered up all the parts I didn't already have on hand, and the bridge is not arrived yet, and everything else has arrived, but all the stuff I already had on hand, like anchors and buttons, strap locks, and jacks and things like that, switches, I haven't dug any of that stuff out of the parts box yet, so it might take me a minute to fish it all up for you. So here's what I do have handy right quick. There's the kill button for it. It's a 10mm in the black. Don't have a price offhand. I'm not sure how much any of these three cost. It's like $20 maybe, and close to 20 kind of a thing. Anyway, I'm just guessing though. This is going to be the bridge pickup. It's an Pure. If this thing will focus, but yeah, there you go, a little bit. Yeah, it's an Pure. It's a high output humbucker. Yeah, forget the camera. That thing doesn't focus. There's nothing on that label of interest anyway. But yeah, this one's going to go at the bridge, and this one will go up at the neck underneath the number 5 and 6 strings, and that's a hot rail. And then, of course, an on-off switch and a jack. And you saw the kill button, and that's the electronics. The bars will have machine screw. It'll get the... Yeah, let me grab a guitar. So this is guitar number 16, and guitar 17 is going to have a similar neck. Yeah, 16 started with a neck like this, and this is 16's neck after modifications. It's going to get the standard 40mm wide by 90mm long heel, triangular heel. And then the trapezoid profile, if you look at this one, it's carried all the way up to the very top edge of the fingerboard. And believe it or not, it's even better than carrying it up to the bottom edge. So this one's going to get that kind of a trapezoid carve on it. And this one will have string anchors instead of a... This one's got a string through up here. But yeah, that's the neck carve that it's going to have. And of course, it'll get the twin machine screw neck bolts. One thing that'll be a little bit different from this guitar here is that on this one here, you can see the area for the controls extends back beyond underneath the number 1 and number 2 tuners. On guitar 17, it's going to all be out here and no wood here. Yeah, the wood will probably end back here where it does on the other side, and then it'll just have a little bit sticking out there for the jack and the on-off switch. And on the headstock, it'll have some kind of faux headstock and string anchors similar to what you see here, but obviously in maple. And I think that more or less, unless you want to see what a jack looks like and a mini toggle on-off switch, that's pretty much all the parts for the guitar. So So yeah, the next thing is to get to thicknessing the neck, knock the nut off and thickness the neck, and check that collet on the router before every pass. I checked the prices. This thing was like 25, 26 bucks. This one's 17, and this one was like 19, 20, something like that. 21. So before I start modding this neck, I need to take some measurements off of it so that I can figure out how far the saddle line is from the end of the neck. Because what you got is you got fender scale length, 648 millimeters, and then you get the length of the neck from the nut to the end of the heel and subtract, and that tells you the distance from the end of the heel to where your saddle line should be. And then you place generally you want to like take the number one string saddle and adjust it all the way forward and put it like right on that line, and then adjust the rest of the saddles accordingly for the normal pattern for intonation. And you should be real close. I mean, if you want, you can go a millimeter closer to the neck and you make up any difference with adjustment. But I've really never had issues putting the number one right on the saddle line when it's fully adjusted towards the nut. As far as the cosmetic look of the guitar goes, I haven't decided on a headstock shape yet, and for the faux headstock, and I've got to get the dimensions in order to figure out where stuff's going to be on the body. But basically it's just going to be the heel and then come straight down, leaving enough room for the pickups, and then have the wings as wide as possible, and then the bridge in the middle, and then a little bit down here for the controls, and that's it for the body. For the finish, I haven't really decided yet. I was thinking either like just a natural finish because it's quick and easy, relatively speaking, or maybe the metallics and flat black paint effect that I used on the X16, put over the whole guitar, so you basically have a flat black guitar. But I still have to decide both the headstock shape and what the final finish will be. So the measurement I need off of this thing is the distance from the leading edge of the nut to the end of the heel. And to get that, it's real simple. You just measure the length of the fingerboard and from the leading edge of the nut, and then measure this amount of overhang right here and subtract the overhang from the fingerboard, and that gives you the distance to the end of the heel. So on this thing, I'm looking at, let's see what we got here. $4.95. So the fretboard is $4.95. And the overhang is $5. So the neck is 490 millimeters long. Yeah. Neck's 490 millimeters long. from right there to right there. So, scale length is 648 minus 490. And the result is, hold on a sec. Yeah, I come up with 158. Let's see, 8, 9, 5, 14, 4, 5, yeah. 158 millimeters from the end to heel. To saddle line. Pardon my messy writing. Yeah, so I'm going to be using 90 millimeters for the length of the heel here. The triangular thing going on, 90 millimeters. So from where the end of that is, I want to come down 158 millimeters, and that's where the saddle line will be. And then on the bridge itself, there's maybe 5 millimeters or so from where the center of the saddle is on the adjustable saddles to the front end of the bridge. So that would put the front end of the bridge maybe 5 millimeters in front of this theoretical saddle line. So that's how I figure out where the bridge goes. And now I've got my critical dimension here of 158 millimeters from the end of the heel to the saddle line. And that's all I really need to know in order to lay out the length of this thing. So yeah, I can go ahead and start with the neck mods, with the recarve. And this time, I've got this little puppy here to help me out with doing the trapezoid profile. It might speed things up a bit. And it's also less work than the big full-size angle grinder, which is kind of big and bulky and heavy for doing like the shoulders, which is the way I used to do them. I'm going to try the little one this time. So one of the very first things you want to do with any new replacement neck is make sure the truss rod works before you start messing with it. And yeah, this truss rod works. So I've only had one neck ever, and it was a neck that came off of a guitar, I think, that the truss rod didn't work. But I didn't discover it until I'd already refinished it and stuff like that. So yeah, always make sure your truss rod works before you start modding. Nice and clean. Yeah, no real amount of glue residue or anything. You can't even see it, the camera won't focus, as usual. But yeah, it came out nice and clean. Just the way you want it. So it looks like the router slipped by about 2 millimeters and cut too deep and got into the truss rod. So, I don't know. We can either like try to patch it or something, or because I think truss rod's still okay. And yeah, it looks like truss rods should still be okay. So yeah, maybe patch it by gluing a piece of wood or something in there after cleaning all that up. Or toss it and get another neck. Maybe get a better router and then get another neck. Okay, it's been 2 days. Got a new neck. Got a better router. It's a win. On this one, I tested the new angle grinder, mini angle grinder, for doing like the shoulders and such. And while it's quite accurate, it did take a while. So yeah, you want to do what you can with the big full-size angle grinder. Yeah, I was sanding on something the other day, and I've got like, let's see, at the smallest end, I've got like the quarter sheet sander, and then I've got the next size up would be a random orbital 6-inch or 6.5, but I don't have one of those. And then I've got the belt sander, and then you would go to, bigger belt sanders. And then even going smaller in a quarter sheet sander, you'd have like one of those little trim sanders. And yeah, each one they become bigger, they become more powerful, they become more aggressive, and they become more clumsy. And really, depending on how big you go and how small you go, you should have one of each. I'm kind of thinking, you might, for example, I skipped the 6-inch random orbital sander, and so I don't have anything between like a hand belt sander and a quarter sheet sander. But the orbital would fall in between those two for size and aggressiveness and clumsiness. So yeah, and that kind of sort of probably applies to all tools, from screwdrivers to hammers to whatever. You have all different sizes, and you need different sizes for depending on the task. But anyway, enough of this and that. So got the new trim router here. This one is actually let's see, the old one was like a $20 special, and just a basic one, plug it in and go, on off switch, and that was about it. Thumb screw for both the height and the clamping adjustment. This one has a separate clamp, and this one is the height adjustment, so that's better. This one's also variable speed, which is nice. And this one is only like about 1 millimeter wider than the base on the other one, and I've already made the necessary adjustment to the routing sled for the neck. So that's already glued up on the desk and ready to go for the thicknessing of this neck here. The new neck, it's even nicer than the old one probably. Beautiful rosewood, and even better figuring on the neck itself, I'd say. Some interesting, almost a flame little pop thing going here on the headstock. Can I get it to flame in the camera? But anyway, so, and let's see, the bridge came in, direct airmail from Nanjing, China, from the factory, drop shipped, and yeah, so, and I show you these results. So I'll be using the full size angle grinder at first, and then use the smaller one in order to finish up. And yeah, that pretty much covers everything, and now it's time for some action footage. Nice and clean. Nice and clean. That one was easy. Yeah, these really are beautiful necks. So, as usual, I feel kind of guilty because I'm about to carve the heck out of this one. All done. Yeah, this one's a thin one, man. Between there and there, it's less than 21.4 mil thick, including the fret and fretboards, which means it's probably a 19 mil neck right there. So it's time to mark out the neck for recarving, and this is pretty straightforward. The only bit that's a little bit tricky is getting mark at the top and the bottom in the middle for striking a center line, because of the curves here makes it a little bit harder to read the center finding ruler, and the curves down here at this end, same case, in a different kind of way. But what you can do is, like up here, take a couple appropriate sized pieces of cut off, and yeah, just put them up where you want them at the nut line here, and then that way you can get this thing centered between the two pieces of wood, and it'll be centered on the neck. And then the same idea down here. You can go right there, and then come in with your center finding ruler and strike the center mark there, and strike a center mark here, then lay down a straight edge and strike your center line. And then from there, you strike a line on either side 5 millimeters in order to get your 10 millimeter wide spine. And then down here, you just measure up 90 millimeters for your heel and 40 millimeters wide, and then just draw your triangle. And that's all there is to marking it out. But yeah, use this trick in order to, even if you've got a traditional carved neck, this trick will still work in order to be able to easily identify the true sides, where the side of the neck truly is for measuring purposes. So there it is, all marked out. Triangular heel, 10mm spine centered on the center line and the nut line. And now it's time to get to some carving. So it's turning out that I was able to pretty much do the correct profile with the large angle grinder and get everything within, like a mil or two of the correct lines. And then coming back in with this guy here, the little one, it is more accurate, but as you saw, I came in with the microplane in order to get it right up to the line, right to the edge. And also this is flat, so this leaves a flatter surface here, which is desirable. In the end, you want these to be pretty much flat. So yeah, it's looking like you can actually do the rough carve with a full-size angle grinder and then just finish with a microplane, and you don't even really need the mini angle grinder that much. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do is now it's already been roughed out pretty well with the full-size angle grinder, so I'm just going to finish it out with the microplane. And you've already seen me microplane this part, so yeah, I'm just going to microplane the rest of it, and I'll be back. So there's the neck, all finished with the microplane, and yeah, the profile it's ready for block sanding down here. And now I gotta figure out what I'm going to do with this headstock, and then go ahead and shape it, cut it, whatever, and blend it in here at the heel of the headstock, so it's nice and comfy for the player. Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Just leave it like that. Yeah, so yeah, I haven't figured out, the aesthetics on this guitar really at all. I haven't figured out what finish I'm going to do. I was thinking just a natural finish because it's easy. And I haven't even thought about the headstock. You want to leave the shoulders on so you can hang it up. And it kind of looks silly with the holes in it. But other than that, you need space for your anchors, however you're going to do your anchors. But other than that, sky's the limit for what you do. You could cut it off here. You could make it something pointy. Anything you want. Well, I've decided I'm just going to go with the traditional shape like on Guitar 16. So just cut it across here to that hole, and then just run along the holes up to that little notch there. And yeah, everything else will be headstock. That'll still leave me plenty of real estate for putting in anchors and stuff above a truss rod cover, once I figure out what I'm going to do for a truss rod cover. So yeah, just a quick zip with the jigsaw ought to do it. Okay, I think that's it for the shaping, all the rough shaping. And now it's just down to block sanding all the flat surfaces, and then sanding all the edges so that you don't have lacquer cut through issues. And it should be ready for the paint shop or hardware installation first, perhaps. Okay, I went around, did all the edges and stuff by hand. You can see like little edge here, all around the headstock, everything. Yeah, so all the edges have been done, all the curves have been done, all the hand sanding's done. Did the side of the fretboard and stuff. So, yeah, the only sharp edge left is the back of the nut. And the only thing left in the way of sanding is use the quarter sheet power sander in order to take off the paint on the front of the headstock and the clear coat on the back and the side and the end. And there's a little bit right there in the shoulder. This one's clear already. And then there's probably, yeah, clear coat on the end of the neck still. So for this one, I might use the little hand grinder thingy because that's end grain and it soaks up that clear coat. Of course, technically, you know, since I'm probably going to do this thing in clear, I don't have to worry about it I don't have to worry about sanding deep in order to get all the clear coat out. All I need to do is just knock it back a bit. And up on the headstock, same idea. Just get rid of the stuff on the surface, and then I can get a uniform finish when I re-squirt. And there it is, headstocks. All the paint's been sanded off, and took about 5 minutes to do all this. The clear coat off the edge, clear coat on the back, clear coat on the end of the fingerboard best you can. You can see there's still some at the bottom. That's real hard to get, but it won't show with the new clear coat going over it. So notice that there's still a center line here that I didn't sand off yet so that I can do the next screws. And yeah, so drilling for neck screws and final clear coat. I mean, raising the grain and clear coat is pretty much all that's left for this thing. The frets are not bad, but they might need a little attention, a little swipe with the file. Okay, at this point, I think I'm going to send it off to the paint shop and pop the grain, lay out and punch the holes for the neck screw inserts, and then just go ahead and clear coat it. And then after it's been clear coated, then I can like drill and stuff and put on the nut and things like that. So yeah, I'm going to try finishing it and then drilling. So yeah, but the only thing I need first is I still need to get the dimensions for the length of the neck so that I can lay out the body and the position of the bridge. And you already saw me do that on the old neck, so I'm not going to film it again. So, bolt-on neck joints. When I first started I was doing traditional kits, you know, a Strat, a Tilly, whatever. And I was using traditional neck screws and, you know, neck plates and stuff like that. And that obviously worked fine. Through experimentation, I went from 4 screws to 3 screws and then to 2 screws and tried different kinds of screws. And as it turns out, all you need is a good solid connection, however you get it. And this right here, believe it or not, will do the trick. Just 2 drywall screws, where I just about, you put them in pretty much the same spot that I'm putting these inserts. I just use the inserts because they're, you know, fancier. But yeah, I've done builds in the past that use 2 drywall screws. If I'm doing like a, you know, a rustic kind of a build or something, I might do that. So, but yeah, you don't need to go crazy on your heel joint as far as like the fastening system goes. Just as long as it's solid. And the advantage of the bolt-on is that, you know, neck swaps and neck break angle changes are easier than with the set neck or a neck through. And supposedly, the 2 pieces of wood, a neck and a body bolt-on, gives you a slightly faster attack than a neck through design with wings. But I've only heard that from one source and they didn't have any real proof. But on the other hand, they were building like 7-string metal machines for 12 years custom, and, you know, had customers still waiting, so they might have known a thing or two. I saw a tour of their shop, and yeah, they definitely knew a thing or two. So someplace in Germany, I think. Well, with these sleeveless inserts that go flush and use a screw type installation tool, as opposed to the type have like a collar and you have to like do a chamfer or something to recess them in order to get them flush. And they go on with like an Allen wrench. Yeah, for these, looks like the trick is, first off, I have a washer, 2 washers, and a nut on this thing, so that I'm only using as little bit of thread as necessary, as little as thread as possible in order to hold the collar, the insert on the tool. And then what you do is you put glue in the hole, you put it in once, and it'll probably come right back out. But what that does is that does tap the hole, and it also puts a layer of CA glue inside the hole that kind of like seals up the wood for when you put the next round of CA glue in. Then you put your second round of CA glue in and screw it back into the threads that you've now tapped into the wood. And you don't torque it down too tight, just snug and flush. And then it'll the first time it'll get stuck on this thing a bit probably. And so, yeah, I have to grab it with pliers in order to get it back off. But you just put it on finger tight and put it in the second time with more glue, and it seems to work. So, yeah, and that way you can get a nice flush install, and you don't have to worry about cutting a recess for the collar, or anything like that. Okay, I'm going to put on the nut first, and that'll allow me to see where I want to put the truss rod cover. And then once I have the truss rod cover on, that'll allow me to see where I want to put the string truss. So taking a look at the nut here and the nut shelf, we put it on and get it flush with the front of the back edge of the fingerboard, and it'll still tilt down like that. So it's going to need some shim underneath the front edge of it so that it'll sit flat. And in general, as far as the height goes, you hold it up tight against the back of the fingerboard, you get your fret pulling guard, and you put it on the first and second frets, and then if it rocks on the first fret, then your nut slot's low, and if it's got a lot of space, if it wiggles at the first fret and doesn't touch the first fret and it's got a lot of space, then your nut slot's too high, and you want it to just almost touch the first fret but not quite, and just wiggle. And that's how you figure out how much shim to put back here. And yeah, this is low, definitely low, so I'm going to start with, I don't know, maybe a couple mil worth of shim in the slot, which will raise it up and also should hopefully get it to sit flat. We'll see how it goes. In the past, I've discovered that when you've got issues with this needing some shim in order to handle the tilt, once you get the shim in where to handle the height, the tilt issue goes away. So shim for height first and then shim for tilt is going to be my approach. Okay, took the 2 mil single ply pickguard material, and I cut out a little bit and cleaned it up with the sanding beam, and then that gave me a shim 2 millimeters thick that fits down in the nut slot, and it's a little bit higher. It's not a full millimeter higher than the back edge here. And once you put the nut on top, it gets the nut slot height right about where it ought to be, with just a little bit of wiggle there. And I haven't checked this treble side yet, actually, but yeah, just a little bit of wiggle there. So yeah, that's going to be it for shimming it. And once you glue in this one into the slot first, and that gives you a nice stable base that you can glue this, and you glue the front to the back of the fingerboard. So yeah, and then you don't have to worry about having a shim back here to support it, because it'll be supported. There'll be plenty of support from having this stuff under the front half and this stuff along the front edge. So, full disclosure, I wasn't quite pleased with the nut alignment left to right when I first glued it on. So, as soon as I shut off the camera, I grabbed the old flat blade, just stuck it under there, and popped it up, and repositioned it by feel, and put it back down before the glue dried even. So, yeah, no issues there now. Nice and feeling good. And you check your spacing between the slot and the edge, and it's even on both sides at the nut, which is pretty much what you want. At the bridge, or at the end of the neck, actually, some folks tend to favor having a little bit more space on the treble side than on the base. You know, maybe 2.5 mil here versus 1.5 mil here, kind of a thing. But up at the nut end, it's best to try to keep everything. Well, really, first of all, on a Floyd Rose, you don't have control over whether it's center to center or distance between strings, because well, they make a number of different sizes of Floyd Rose. If you actually look up here at the chart, yeah, they make a bunch of different sizes, which, you know, are for different radiuses and such. But yeah, so general rule of thumb that I use is that I always try to keep the distance from the nut slot, from the center of the nut slot, I guess you would say, to the edge equal on both sides. But by and large, you know, this is lined up with that, and there's the same amount of overhang on either side by feel below. And this thing's in nice and solid, so yeah, it's ready to go. I've been fishing for truss rod covers, haven't found anything. I might have to fab something up. So for the truss rod cover, I'm thinking something like this. I got this half piece here that's out of my bag of truss rod covers. I mean, I got this, and then I got this. Which actually might give you more room. Then I've got a couple full size. There's that one. And then a standard bell in a rosewood. Kind of matches that. Yeah, these three are rosewood. And then this one obviously is ebony. But yeah, I think the ebony goes nicely with the black hardware. So I think we'll go with that. And all this is the bottom half of a bell that's been cut. And then you turn around. And boom, there it is. So this is cool. The 1/2 inch wide pinstriping tape just came in like yesterday, something like that. So yeah, just in time for masking off this thing. Forgot what kind of paint job I was doing. I was masking off to the wrong edge. Need to mask off just above the bottom of the fingerboard and around this way, not just below the top of the fingerboard and around that way. Yeah, I'm going to paint the neck and not the fingerboard, as opposed to painting the fingerboard and not the neck.